Happy 4th of July, everybody! It's Heather from Bell's Library, and I am coming to you guys with the part 1 of my June wrap-up. If you guys haven't already subscribed, definitely get down below and hit that button, and let's go ahead and get started. I decided to break up my wrap-up into 2 parts. If you guys watched last month's TBR, you know that I'm doing a little Libra experiment in which I am exploring if recommendations for books made to me as a Libra would actually work for me. I've decided to take that and put it into its own video, so that will be part 2 of my June wrap-up. And today we're just going to talk about all the other books that I read this month, and we'll go through a few of my stats for the month. So let's go ahead and start there. I read 12 books this month. It came out to a total of 4,266 pages, which is insane. As far as star ratings go, I had 3 5 stars, 5 4 stars, 3 3 stars, 1 2 star, and 1 DNF. I also had 5 adult, 6 YA, and 1 middle grade book. Out of all of those books, 6 of them were on audio that I listened to, and 7 were physical books. I know that adds up to 13, but that's because one of the books we're going to talk about, I read about half of it physically, and then I listened to half of it on the audiobook, so it was kind of a mix of both. I just stuck it into both. And as far as genres go, I had 5 romance, 4 contemporary, 2 fantasies, and then I had my 1 children's middle grade book. So a little bit romance heavy this month. Probably mostly because I had Romanceathon going on towards the end, and so I read like 4 books that week. So that kind of tilted the romance genre a little bit. But we're going to go ahead and get started into a few of these books. So we are going to start with What You Wish For by Katherine Center. It is coming out a little bit later this month, and I'm going to go a little more in detail for a review for this one on Monday coming up here, but I gave this one a 4-star rating. So our basic premise is we have a librarian at this super special school they just have art, and the kids love it and the parents love it, and they have great scores on all their testing, and they just do a lot of fun things. And the principal unfortunately passes away over the summer unexpectedly, so they get a new principal, and he is the exact opposite of what this school usually stands for. He wants everything to just be gray and plain, and he's super into security and putting bars on the windows and gates up and stuff. And he also happens to be a past love interest for our librarian, but when she knew him, he was polar opposite of what he is now. And so we have a little bit of unrequited love, a little bit of a hate to love, because they really don't get along at first because they're polar opposites. And it was just really a cute story. I love hate to love romances, and I also really enjoyed a lot of the imagery in this book. It was like I wanted to go to that school. I wanted to see some of the beautiful murals that were going on in this story at the school. So I will go a little more in depth with that very soon. Keep an eye out for that video. The next little section here will be a few of the books that I read for Romanceathon. I'm going to put up above my Romanceathon blog, and I'll link it down below. But if you want more details on these, you're going to go there. I'm just going to do a quick run through on these. So we'll go ahead and start with Amy and Roger's Epic Detour. This one I gave 4 stars. It's a really cute romance between Amy and Roger as they go across the United States in Amy's mom's Jeep, bringing it to Connecticut where she's going to be moving. And they kind of take some detours along the way to deal with some grief and relationship problems and different stuff that the 2 characters have, and they kind of grow in their friendship, and eventually a little bit more comes along, and it's super cute, and I really enjoyed this guy. Next, we will talk about The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. This is a very hyped book, and I absolutely loved it, and our characters are super cute. They are totally opposite of each other, and they really truly hate each other, and they are constantly trying to one-up each other as they work in the same office and basically do the same job just for different CEOs of the company. This one, 5 stars, definitely recommend. Okay, so next we will talk about If I Never Met You, which I also read for Romanceathon. This one unfortunately was only a 2-star for me. It just didn't do anything for me. I didn't connect with the characters, I didn't connect with the story, just nothing like made me like feel gooey gushy. It is a fake dating trope where our character is trying to make her ex jealous, and then our other character is needing a stable girlfriend so that he'll look good to his bosses. And I don't know, it just didn't do it for me. So those 3 books, if you want to hear more, check out my Romanceathon vlog and you can hear more about all of my feelings on those ones. And let's keep rolling here. So next I will talk about Smile by Raina Telgemeier. So my niece Madison, she is 10, and she really wanted me to read all of Raina's books. They are like her favorite books, and she's read them all a million times. So this was one I was tasked to start with, and I'm sure I will be running through the rest of them soon. These are graphic novels, and this one is about Raina when she was younger. She had a fall and knocked out her 2 front teeth, and how she had to kind of overcome that. And then there's also some coming of age in here, talking about, you know, friends that are actually friends and not just bullies or people you don't actually want to be friends with. And I think that was a really sweet part of the story. I also enjoyed, they talked about, she lives in the Bay Area here in California. They talked about the big 1989 earthquake, and I was actually born like the next day after that earthquake, and my mom lived in the Bay Area at the time, so I thought that was kind of fun. Overall, I gave that one a 3-star just because it's not my genre, or, you know, it's not meant for me. So if I was my niece's age, I'm sure I would absolutely love that story. And I definitely would recommend it for younger kids. So we have 2 more books to talk about. The next one is going to be On the Come Up by Angie Thomas. This is a book about Bree, and she wants to become a rapper like her father was, but he unfortunately got killed when she was pretty young and never really got to make it super big. So she wants to kind of follow in his footsteps. I really enjoyed like the little rap verses and stuff, and how Bree's mind would work and make all these rhymes up, and she'd be kind of working through it, and that was really fun. And I also really enjoyed the talk that was based around like the Black Lives Matter movement, and some of the feelings that Bree had as those things were going on were definitely touched a lot in this book, and I really enjoyed that piece and learning more about the movement and how Black friends can kind of be feeling on those subjects. So that was a really good piece of this book, but overall I also just super enjoyed how realistic and real this book was. I felt like these characters were real and this could have happened. It is one of my favorite things about Taylor Jenkins Reid is that she makes stories where you feel like the characters are a real thing, and I feel like that with this book as well. Angie Thomas did an awesome job of making Bree seem like an actual person and like this could 100% happen. So definitely enjoyed this book, and this was a 5-star read for me. The next book and the last book is going to be In 5 Years by Rebecca Serle. This one I gave 3 stars. I was definitely a little misled with this one. I thought we were going to be going into kind of a romance book, and it totally hooked to a totally different thing, and I just don't know how I feel about that, and I don't appreciate that the marketing was so off for this one. Basically, the premise of the book that is given is our main character goes in for her dream job interview, and later that night she gets engaged, and she's on track for, in 5 years, living this dream life that she's made up in her head that she answered basically at her interview. Where are you going to be in 5 years? And then that night she goes to bed, she has this dream, and she basically, it's 5 years in the future and nothing is the same. She's with a different guy, she's in a different apartment, like just everything's completely different, and she doesn't feel like it was just a dream, like it feels very real to her. She doesn't fully understand it. And then the book kind of jumps forward 4.5 years, and so you're living out those last 6 months with her, getting up to this 5-year mark and what's going on, and she runs into the guy in her dream and yada yada. So it sounds like there's gonna be like a romance there, but it definitely kind of swings differently, and I don't know. It was a 3-star for me. It wasn't a bad book. I just wasn't ready for it, I guess. So that's all I will say, because I don't want to give too much away. So that is going to wrap up all of the books that I read for this wrap-up part of June. And I will be back next week with the rest for my Libra experiment. I hope you guys have a really good 4th of July weekend and you are celebrating safely and don't catch things on fire. And I will talk to you guys soon. Bye!